Hi everyone, welcome to our channel where we help your real estate investments work harder for you. I'm Samantha and we also have Simon here and we're both from Elevate Realty in Toronto. So we got a lot of good feedback with our last video with Simon where he talked about his 5-plex property. So I managed to pull Simon out from his busy week to do another video with us. And for this video, he's going to be talking about another one of his investment properties. And for this property, he purchased it last year. Since then, he's done work to it, and then now he's rented the property out. So unfortunately, we won't be on site to show you because there's people living there. But we definitely would be talking through the whole entire process from beginning to end and also show you pictures along the way as well. So it's going to be an exciting video. Without further ado, let's get started. Can you tell us how you managed to find this property?
It was Canada Day long weekend. Everyone was out on the cottage, out having a good time. And I was in Toronto and the property had just got listed. I think it was either the Thursday or Friday leading into long weekend, which is unusual. Most agents do not list properties during that time frame. So I noticed the property come on the market. I immediately was like, this looks like a great deal. It's a really great house in a very, very nice neighborhood close to my office. And I said, okay, let me keep thinking about this and maybe I'll get back to it. It ate me up over the entire long weekend. So when I say that, it's like the first day after seeing it, I was like, if I'm in the business of investment and I see a deal like this and I don't act on it, how can I say this is what I do? And so while I was at the park hanging out with some friends, I just kind of had that moment where I was like, you know what, I'm going to deal with this now. I know I want to enjoy my long weekend, but this is how you get great deals. So I actually ended up, leaving my social gathering, going home, booking the showing, going to see the property, calling the agent, registering the offer, finding out that I was going to be presenting the offer at a family gathering where the entire extended family was located. So I showed up. It was in the late afternoon. The agent was there. Everyone was, barbecuing and having a good time, and brought the offer during that time to the whole extended family to review. Reviewed it in person, and within probably 5 hours of leaving my social gathering, I had an accepted offer. Firm offer, done. I only had saw it once. No contractors had been there. It was just the numbers looked like they were going to work. I mean, there's a lot of surprises, I'm sure, which I'll talk you through, but it was one of those scenarios that you just had to move fast.
Okay, so what are some characteristics of this house that made it a great property?
This one in particular just met a lot of criteria that I'm looking at. It was a detached property. Basement height wasn't exceptionally tall, but it was 5 minutes from St. Clair and Oakwood walking, so it would be easy for me to manage the renovation. And it just, it had the value that we could put into it. The house was old. The previous owner who had owned the house, and it was an estate sale, had owned it for about 30 to 40 years. It was like the entire generational home for the previous owners, and it just looked that way. Like the house was very run down. Towards the tail end of this ownership cycle, I guess it became a hoarder house. So the entire neighborhood knew it as that, as I would later find out from the neighbors. And so when we went into the house, we weren't even able to see all of it because there was just a lot of things there. There was parking as well. So in terms of parking contractor cars, and that would make that more convenient for the contractors to work on. And just the lot itself is a very long lot. There's a lot of space in the back, so it's got some opportunities for further development down the road.
Based on what you described, what kind of renovations did you expect going in?
I've been doing a lot of renovation projects, and I think the main thing is that I come in with a certain expectation. Like there's going to be plumbing issues, there's going to be electrical issues, there's going to be mechanical issues. You're likely going to have to replace windows, you're going to have to update flooring in most cases. All the kitchens and washrooms are going to have to go, pot lights and so forth. So these are staple. Anytime you're doing a renovation on the house, all these things above, you're going to have to touch. But with every single one of these century-old homes, there will come a couple surprises along the way, things that you haven't dealt with. In this case, there was a couple things that came up. The first thing was we did do asbestos testing in the property, and there was asbestos found both on the floors. These 9x9 tiles that were installed back, I don't know how many years ago, were tested positive for asbestos, as well as the insulation that wrapped the radiators, which was very apparent to me, having seen many properties, that this was asbestos as well. So knowing that there was a remediation cost associated with getting rid of the asbestos, and that that it didn't take long. Okay, the quotes varied as well. Like we had quotes from, $2,500 to $10,000 to get rid of the asbestos. We ended up going with the one that was providing the service for the $10,000 one, but still did the work. The guy that actually did the work for the $10,000 quote, and
So the price was
2,500.
2,500,
Yes.
but the service was exactly the same.
They're exactly the same. I think they subcontracted this
wow.
individual to do some of their work as well. So it was $2,500, and we managed to get rid of all the asbestos. The other thing that we had going on was the radiators. So a lot of the radiators there were old, and because of the season that we purchased in the summer, we didn't know which ones were working or not. We couldn't turn on the furnace. So by the winter, while we're doing the renovations, of course, as soon as we turned on the radiators, a bunch of them started leaking. I replaced one and another one leaked. I replaced another one and another one leaked. And just by the end of it, after the second one started leaking, I just said, forget it, let's replace all the radiators. So that was actually quite a big cost that came after the fact that we didn't plan for. These radiators, they're great. They're really good. They last a long time. But I think what happened was this house was vacant for such a long period of time that over the winter it had cracked because they didn't bleed the lines and there wasn't any heat in the house. So all that water that was in the rads actually just turned to ice. And so even as strong as the radiators are, they still will crack under the pressure.
So you mentioned that you purchased this property firm and later on you found these surprises. Looking back, would you have done the inspection, or I just wanted to know whether there are any lessons learned based on this experience?
Subsequent to me submitting the offer, there were other offers that came in. The reason ultimately that I was the successful bidder, actually didn't have the highest offer, was because the offer was firm. It was Canada Day long weekend. They just wanted to celebrate. They wanted this to be done. They didn't want it to be partially done where I could actually back out of the deal. And so basically they said, okay, if it's a firm offer, we'll take your offer, even though it's lower than some of the other offers there that had conditions on inspections. That was one of the big things that really made it stick. For me, I would say the major lessons learned in this scenario was, number one, if you're not moving quickly in this market, you're just going to lose opportunities. Always be ready. You snooze, you lose. Like, you got to jump in when you see an opportunity. You got to move fast. And half the battle is being able to buy a property at the right price. The other thing is that made a huge difference in this case is the agent that was representing the seller was the seller's father. And so he really appreciated that I actually showed up in person. The other offers that were submitted, both of them were emailed in. And because they were emailed in, he didn't build up a personal connection.
Yeah. And you're also the buyer too, the actual buyer.
That's true. I was the buyer in this case. So I went to the family party, met all the people. They all liked me. It was one of those situations where you're kind of doing an interview because multi-generational home, they've lived in this home for such a long time, and ultimately they said, okay, we'll sell it to you even though your price isn't there. But I would say always build the relationship, always build the rapport, and then show that you genuinely care about the property to move the negotiation forward. The last thing that I would say that's really important is being the first mover. Like, a lot of times, our clients and myself as well, in certain occasions, you overthink it. You're like, why isn't anyone else putting an offer on this? It just came on the market. No one else is bidding on it. It must be mediocre. Right? What people don't realize is most of the time when you're putting in offers, probably only 15 to 20 people have seen the property. So it's odd. There's some degree of likelihood that there's the people that saw the property actually don't like it. And I think in this case, it didn't show well. It needed a lot of work. There would be a lot of surprises. And if you're the first mover, you get to kind of push things forward. You're the one that started the process. Generally, the agents that are representing the seller respect that and try to deal with you in a very professional way to allow you to kind of have the last word with the offer. So in this case, it definitely worked in my favor. He gave me enough of an indication that, hey, if you come in person, it'll make a difference. If you prepare a bank draft, it'll make a difference. Like, these are the small things that individually don't make a big difference, but collectively as a whole make a huge difference to be able to get great deals out in the market there.
So let's talk about timeline. So you got this property on Canada Day 2019. How long did it take to close? And then how long did renovations take, including the unexpected surprises? And then how long did it take you to rent it out?
Because of the surprises, it did change the timelines for us a little bit. We had purchased the property, as you mentioned, on Canada Day. I think we get the bank draft went in on the following day, so it was like either June 2nd or something like that. The closing was at the end of August, so we were still working on. We started to work in September, albeit a lot of it is initial. It's demolition. It's talking to the neighbors. It's trying to figure out, okay, what can we do and how do we move things forward. So there was a lot of stuff that discovery phase for the first month. The total renovations took about 5 months. So we were completed around February of 2020. This year, so right in the heart of COVID, I started leasing this property, which was not
Hard.
ideal. I will say that was a huge challenge in terms of being able to get the tenants to come out. Ultimately, we found amazing tenants. It took a little longer than expected, and to be completely upfront, the rents that we were targeting were about probably 5 to 10% off the rents that we initially had targeted, and that was an adjustment that was across the board. Like even the properties that we currently manage have gone down anywhere between 5 to 10% rents in the last few months with COVID. So making that adjustment, but we got a fantastic tenant, like AAA tenant, worked at a hospital. I won't give any further details, but a really great tenant on the top floor, and really good tenants in the lower unit as well. So it took altogether from the point that we closed to the tenants moving in. The tenants moved in April 1st, so about, I want to say 8 to 10 months or approximately around there to have it fully leased out and completed and as a completed project.
Okay, so let's fast forward 5 months to after renos and take a look at how it looks like. So what exactly did you do, and what did you love most about it?
This one, we really wanted to make it go above and beyond. So for example, start with the kitchen. We put in a waterfall kitchen where you'll see the countertop actually flow all the way down the side of the cabinets onto the floor. We also put in a wine fridge there. The two-tone sort of upper and lower cabinets, we gave a lot of cabinet space, which is typically not standard for a smaller rental property, but depending on the audience, and we were looking for an affluent audience to rent out the place, we decided to put in the extra budget. Obviously, all the appliances are stainless steel. Those are great. The other things that we did was all the windows throughout the entire house. Even though some of them were okay, we actually replaced them all. We made the exterior black and the interior white to add a little bit more of a modern edge to it, which again, for a classical rental, we don't do. Note for you guys, if you get black windows, they're 20% more expensive than white windows. So the cost actually went up from about $15,000 to $16,000 for the windows to closer to $18,000 to $19,000 once we had put those in. We also replaced the front door, just a really nice decorative front door there as well. And then in terms of the finishing, we oftentimes with a lot of the renovation is we put in vinyl laminate flooring. It's most durable. If you're cooking and you drop a pot of water, it's not going to change. In this house, because of the quality, we put in hand scraped hardwood flooring as well, which is much higher quality. It's just much higher end finishing. Definitely, if they scratch it, it's an issue, but you just hope that the tenants that you're going to put in are going to take good care of the place. The other thing that I really liked about the renovation of the property, we actually did a lot of work in the facade and the exterior. You'll notice that we put a new sod in the back. We also replaced all the aluminum facades, so the downspouts, all the siding in the house with this black finishing to kind of create, again, that modern look that matched the windows that we had put in as well. So quite a bit of work there to get that done. And then of course we did all the basic things like the waterproofing in the basement and the sump pump and the backwater valve. All those kind of things were put in as part of the renovation as well. But for me, really, it was just the upper 2 floors, like the quality that went into it, having the washer and dryer on the second floor as well, accessible to all 4 of the bedrooms. Like those are things that we typically don't put in houses, and that was very unique to the neighborhood and to the house that we were working on this time around.
Awesome. So why don't we recap the numbers to see how the returns look like on this investment property?
Yeah, so the property that we had picked up, we had purchased it in the summer of 2019 for $818,000. We put down a 20% down payment. The closing costs, including all the upgrades, was approximately $150,000, which put total upfront cost that was required, down payment as well as cash required, about at $340,000. So there's 2 units in the property. The upper bedroom was rented out for $3,750, and the lower unit was rented out for $1,900. So the total rents on the property were $5,650. There's approximately about $1,000 in monthly expenses. It's broken into about $300 for taxes, $500 for utilities, and approximately $200 for insurance and other smaller things. The original mortgage was $2,700 a month, and so the positive cash flow generated on property was $1,950. That's quite
really
a heavy
high.
cash flow. So the big thing was for me was, as I was going through this process, that it was important to get the appraised value and then to take out the money so that we can continue doing this. After putting in the $150,000, we ended up with a full, appraised value of $1.2 million, which means that we created about $200,000 in value through the renovation of the project. So if I could refinance this property and at a 80% loan to value, we'd be able to take $300,000 back out of the property. Now, keep in mind, I put in $340,000 into the property. If I'm pulling out $300,000 1 year later, I basically am buying this property for $40,000. And yes, the cash flows would likely not be as high at that point because my mortgage is greater, but that it doesn't necessarily put me in the cash flow negative category as well. So a very unique opportunity here with this one.
Okay, cool stuff. So just so that everyone knows, the returns on this project was higher compared to a turnkey project because Simon put in the effort to renovate the property himself. And it's not a small project. He put in $150,000 plus his own time, effort, and his experience. It's not his first property. So because of this, he was able to come out successfully and get a bigger bump in appreciation from the value add work.
You're absolutely right. This is not my recommended first project for most people. This is the type of project I take on personally now as pretty much a default, which really gives me a lot of confidence, certainly when I'm talking with clients about what they're working on, because then I've already gone through it all. It's nothing that's going to be a surprise. So when you talk to a sales rep or an individual about this thing, it's not like they're just telling you things that they don't know. They actually have gone through the full experience from end to end.
If you want to learn more about real estate investments in Toronto, our team is happy to help. We would be happy to chat with you to learn more about you so that we can find you the best properties on the market for you. So I'll put a link in the description below so you can head there and connect with us further. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and remember to subscribe to our channel to see more weekly real estate investing videos just like this one. Finally, I wish you all the best in your real estate investing journey. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.